give YouTube a moment to notify people, but I think we should be working. I am Drew Badger, the founder of EnglishAnyone.com and the English Fluency Guide. Welcome to another live video here on YouTube. Today, this video is really more for people who are not regular followers of the channel. I think they know pretty deeply what I talk about, so I wanted to welcome some new people. So if you are trying to learn English, but you struggle to express yourself fluently, this video will explain why that is and what you can do about it. George, nice to see you there. So hopefully, looks like we are live, so we'll just get right into it. I wanted to make this video specifically because I saw a comment recently on one of my videos that I thought was interesting. I'll just share part of it. So this is not a complete sentence, but hopefully this will make an interesting lesson for people. Well, actually, this is it's not the whole comment, but I hope. Actually, wait a minute. Excuse me. I wish you to see my comment. I wish you to see my comment. I'll give you just a second to look at that. I'll make sure chat is working. Nice to see people there. Looks like we got Diana, hi, and it's not, is that showing me the name? Rasaid from Egypt, Rola. That's interesting. It's like not showing names like it used to, or maybe I'm just looking at it different. But nice to see you guys. Dran is there, Yuri, and greetings from Mexico. All right, well, I guess it's kind of working. That looks maybe a little bit different. Anyway, so I got this comment, and it said, I wish you to see my comment. Anything wrong with that? I wish you to see my comment. Anything wrong with that? Is that correct English? Do you know? And this is an interesting part of language learning, where if you can look at a sentence and wonder why it's correct or incorrect, if you know that almost instinctively, then you already are likely fluent, at least about the particular thing you're looking at. You think it's not correct? Anything wrong with it? Let me know what you think. I wish you to see my comment. I think grammatically, like, we could even say that was correct English, but nobody, a native English speaker would not say this. But so if you're saying, like, I wish you to see my comment, what do you think would sound better, assuming you understand what people are trying to go for here? So I wish you to see my comment. What do you think? So this is presumably they're asking, they're typing a comment, and like the hope is that I see that and read that. Okay? So the simpler way to say this is just I hope. So I hope you see my comment. I hope you see my comment. Now, these two words sound similar, and obviously this is another kind of grammar, like an odd little bit of grammar here. Like, I want you to, obviously you could say that, but this is really more thinking about, like, hoping that something happens, because you don't know. It's like you send a letter or you write to somebody and you don't know if they will even see the comment or the mail or something that you send. So maybe they will respond, maybe they will not, but you don't know for sure. So anyway, I hope you see my comment would be the correct thing to say here, but you can see why these are kind of related, a hope and a wish. And this is an interesting thing about learning the language, when typically people are making errors either because they're trying to learn through translations, or they're trying to study words individually and not really connecting those to particular situations. But when we're talking, I wanted to bring up this example just because it's a very A very clear example of this kind of problem, I'll put both of these problems up here for you. So one is translations, TRANS, translations. So if you're learning through translations, that's one of the reasons that will stop you from expressing yourself fluently, because if you need to think and translate in your head before you speak, then you won't be able to speak fluently. And then the other one is you're kind of studying the pieces of the language without connecting that to specific situations. So you're studying maybe sort of, what's a good way to describe this? I talk about this in my book, but I'm just trying to think about a simple way to express it here. It's kind of like, we'll just call it isolated vocabulary. Maybe I can think of a better way to express it, but isolated vocabulary. So isolated just means by itself. So we learn a word like hope, or a word like wish, and sometimes these are essentially the same thing. Like I have a hope for something, or I have a wish for something. It's like something I want. Maybe I don't know exactly how it will happen, or it's just a dream of mine, something like that. In that case, we can use these in the same way. But here, like when you're talking about I wish for something to happen, like you're asking a genie to do something for you, you're trying to ask for like kind of a particular person or something to do something. Like I want you to do something. I wish, like another way to express this would be like if my wife is complaining about me and she says like, I wish you would wash the dishes more. She's kind of just saying like, I wish, but she's telling that to me directly, like, I wish you would do a particular thing. I wish you would do something. And when we're talking about hoping for something, in this case, like I hope, it's more just talking about generally like you're asking a question to the universe, like I hope for, again, this situation. So if you learn the word hope or wish through translations, then you're going to have more trouble using them fluently. Or if you're learning isolated vocabulary, like I'm just trying to study the word hope by itself without connecting that to specific situations, it's going to be more difficult for you to speak fluently. Okay? So I hope you see my comment, all right? Like if I wish for you to see my comment, it's like I'm trying to make it happen, like I'm wishing for like a genie to grant my desire or my wish, all right? Now, for the people who know English but still have trouble speaking, why do you think that is? All right, people have lots of reasons. I'm just going to put some of these up here. If you can think of more, let me know. But again, I wanted to make this video specifically for people who can understand English, like they can read the title of this video, but they don't feel confident about speaking for whatever reason. So typically there are like two kinds of issues that stop people from speaking. So the first one is beliefs about learning. We'll just put a B here for belief. So these are things like I don't live So for an example, I don't live in an English-speaking country. That's why I'm not fluent, okay? So why you aren't fluent. So again, we have these beliefs over here, why you aren't fluent. So it could be things like, I don't live in an English-speaking country, or I don't live around natives, or I don't know anyone, maybe no speaking partner. No speaking partner, maybe too old. That's a reason or a belief for some people. So again, the beliefs over here, I don't have a person to practice with, or I'm too old. Can you think of any others? I bet you can, probably. And these are, again, reasons why people might think they're not fluent. Another very common one is I don't have or I don't know. I don't know enough words. I don't have enough vocabulary. And then we'll just put a P down here for specific problems people have with expressing themselves. And so like these could be needing to translate, like translating before you speak, or you forget words, or you feel unsure, like you feel unsure about grammar or pronunciation or whatever. Like you're worried about making mistakes. It could be trouble listening. Anything else? Let me know if I'm not covering anything you might be thinking of, because I want to begin this video looking at the specific reasons why people might know English, they might understand it, but still have trouble speaking. All right, let me know. I'm going to go back through comments, but think about these two categories. Because these are generally the things that people struggle with, either because they think they don't have one of these, or they don't have enough of it, or they actually have these specific problems. So lack of confidence, very good. That can kind of go up here. So a feeling of uncertainty, lack of confidence, that's another reason people don't speak. All right, let me go through, see if anybody actually gave me something I missed. Let's see. All right, Rolla says, nice to see you. Dran, what's up, guys? I think I got that already. Greetings from, okay, I did those already. Let's see. And let's see. I wish I could speak English fluently. Yes, he was like, I wish, yeah, you could say I wish or I hope I can speak English fluently in 2025. Well, we better hurry up then. We got about 2.5 months left as of the recording of this video. Yuri says, I'm thinking this stream is going very often. No need to do them so. Are you agree? I am thinking this streams is going very often. I don't know what you mean. I've lately, for the past, I don't know, like year or so, maybe longer than that, I've just been doing these about once a week. So I don't know how often that is. Let's see. Morning from Thailand. I wish you to see my comment. From South Korea. Yeah, this is weird. It doesn't show the name anymore. It's showing your handle, or at least maybe that's what. Maybe it's always been like that. That's weird. All right. Let's see. Is using want correct? Yes, you could say that. So okay, do it. So if you want and decide and do it that. I hope that through your channel and course, I will be able to speak fluently. Yeah, that's the whole point. Well, Ohio Drew Sensei, nice to see you there, Tsubasa. Hello from Nepal, from Haiti, Saudi Arabia. Good morning, Drew. Nice to see you there, Tom. Lack of, yes, you would say lack of vocabulary. L-A-C-K, lack, not luck. Lack of vocabulary. I don't know where I should start. Okay. Don't. That's actually an interesting one. Don't know. And this is it's a kind of perplexing, troubling, difficult, confusing thing for learners because yes, especially if you've already learned quite a bit of English, you don't really know what to continue with or where to spend your time. Usually in that case, I just recommend people begin with whatever their biggest problem is, their biggest frustration. So some people, they actually do, maybe they lack vocabulary. Like if they're thinking about, I don't know, they want to have a conversation about something, but they actually don't know the vocabulary to discuss it at all, and they can't think of any way to express those things. In that case, yes, you do need some some vocabulary, obviously. But for a lot of people, they actually know quite a bit of English, but they still don't use the language fluently anyway. So often the problem is not how much English you know, it's really just a like kind of inability to use what you know. But that's a good example of one. Let's see. Hello. It's Haney. Nice to see you there. It's getting colder. Careful not to catch a cold. Yeah, I'll be okay. in which time you start your class. You can say, when do you start classes, or at what time. Well, these aren't like scheduled for a particular time, but often I start them 9:30 in the morning on Thursdays here in Japan. Let's see, organizing sentences. So maybe you struggle to speak because you have to organize sentences in your head. This is similar to thinking about translating, but often all of these things come basically because you just don't know the language as well as you think you do. So you maybe understand it, you can recognize it, but you don't know it well enough to speak. That's basically the issue. And so when I'm trying to explain to people what to do, I really want to make the problem very simple for people. And so instead of thinking about fluency in general, you really just focus on a particular thing you'd like to say that maybe you cannot. And so what we're trying to do is solve individual issues that make you feel confident about using that particular thing, even if it's just one word for a particular situation. And that's why I started this video talking about that example of wishing versus hope. So most people, when they're learning a language, and this is not your fault, it's just the way most people teach languages, and not only English, but really any language you might learn, people are mostly learning specific vocabulary through translations, or they're just studying that isolated vocabulary like I talked about before. So they feel unsure basically about things. And so if you look at all these different issues that people experience, some people might have more uncertainty about grammar or pronunciation or maybe listening or whatever, but it's basically feeling unsure. Because when you feel fluent, what you're really saying is that I feel sure and confident that what I say is correct. And so most people, if they're nervous, if they think their language won't be correct, then they won't speak. And obviously, if you have to translate, or you're forgetting words, or you lack just confidence in general, or you don't know where to start, all of these issues really come from that same kind of thing. And so when we're talking about thinking about how to get fluent, I'm trying to show you that you can really do this, or just prove it to yourself by becoming fluent in particular things. So, like for example, the example I gave at the beginning of this video, where we're talking about, I wish you to see my comment. So for this particular situation, we don't want to talk about wish. We're not like wishing in that way. We're talking about I hope, like, and this is the specific kind of pattern that you would learn for this situation. So if you're sending a letter or asking a comment, or posting a comment here in a video, I hope you do something. So I hope you see my comment. All right. You can kind of wish that someone does something, but if you're speaking directly to the person and you're saying, I hope you read the comment, that's the pattern that we would use, I hope. And so when we're trying to get fluent in the language itself, what we really need to do is get fluent in the pieces of those things, like getting fluent in specific patterns of the language rather than worrying about the whole thing. Because if you get fluent in these pieces, if you can learn to say individual patterns and use them without thinking, without feeling unsure, then you will speak fluently. Okay? Let me go back through a couple of these comments. But what I wanted to do is answer some questions for people if you have uncertainty about specific things, like how do I use this word or that word or something like that, maybe any questions you have. And then if we can help you feel certain about that thing, you will actually feel fluent and confident about using it. All right. So you don't need to speak in order to do this. You just need to feel certain and confident that you will speak correctly. That's what allows you to speak. Okay. If you don't feel that you will use things correctly, or you don't actually understand them, so you are hesitating and translating when you speak, then of course you won't express yourself either. But all of these problems are really just uncertainty about the language. But instead of thinking about general uncertainty about English, try to think about specific things that you struggle with, like not being able to use a word or phrase for a situation. That's what we're working on. So that's, again, why I began with that one example about hoping versus wishing for that specific situation. All right. Let's see. Next, we've got, your channel is a huge support to my English learning journey. I appreciate it. Glad to hear it. The greatest English teacher on YouTube. Well, you guys are too kind. You know, everybody, I think every channel probably has people who enjoy their content. But thank you very much. You guys are always very kind. I was wondering, Americans, how to use a lot of words in English. Word of world. Let me know what you mean by that. Timmer, pardon me, like some of these, because it's not showing your name, it's just showing the, like the @ YouTube handle. I don't know like what some of these, if some of these are names or not. Mike makes right. That was from, what was that, from last week, I think. We want you to talk about how to memorize vocabulary. All right, Abo, do you think your problem for communicating in English, like assuming you are here because you don't speak fluently, you think the problem is you just need to memorize more vocabulary? All right. So like, I don't know enough words, or I can't remember, so we got that over here. These are two parts of this same issue. So either you don't know enough words or you forget the words that you have. Now, I do talk about how to remember words, and actually I've made whole videos about this specifically. So if you're curious about that topic, just search my channel for that, specifically about building a large vocabulary and remembering words. But today, in this video, we're speaking more specifically about fluency in specific words and phrases. So, of course, remembering the words is part of that, but you don't necessarily need to memorize things. It's more about actually understanding things rather than just taking a list of words and trying to remember them. What we want to be able to do is, if this situation happens, for example, some situation happens, we know what to say or how to respond for that situation. So at the beginning of this video where we're talking about I wish you to see my comment. So in that situation, the correct or typical thing that people would say is, I hope you see my comment. I hope you see my comment. So what we're looking for is, can you recognize a pattern and use the right pattern at the right time? And typically there are actually a number of ways to express that. So like, I hope you see my comment. It would be great if you could respond to my comment, could be another thing like that. So not only that I see it, but hopefully I'm responding to that thing as well. So in most situations, there are a variety of ways that you could respond. But again, instead of worrying about like where you live or any of these other issues, the thing you can actually do anywhere, even without speaking, even before you speak, is just understanding particular things and knowing how to use them. So let me know if you have specific questions. I didn't prepare a bunch of things because I usually get good questions from people. But if there are specific things like a word or something that you have trouble using for a particular situation, let me know. Let me just go back through, see if I missed anybody else. All right, Zaggy from Afghanistan. Hi from Brazil. I follow since the pandemic. Wow, look at that. That's been a while. You are the best. Glad to hear it. Thank you very much. Rains is good morning, teacher. Tomorrow's my IELTS speaking. Please, could you help me get a high band? But I lack idea, fluency, shudder while speaking. Well, I don't know. There isn't really a lot you can do. Is your picture a duck? Is that like a goose or something? What is that? A duck? Well, I wish you luck on the test because there's not really much I could prepare you for tomorrow. That's not really a lot of time to do anything. But I don't know. I think in that case, number one, if you're looking for support for things like the IELTS or other tests, Mostly what I focus on this channel is just conversational fluency. So that can help you, and my students do get good scores on tests, but that's not the focus. So especially if you only have one day left, you should probably look for a YouTube video that says, what do you do if your IELTS test is tomorrow or something like that? And then look for some help specifically with that. But if you'd like to know just how to speak more confidently and fluently in general, although it might be able to help you with what you're talking about, if you give me some specific things you're unsure about, I can probably help you with that. But yeah, so remember that when learners are often thinking about fluency in a language, what you should really be focusing on is fluency in particular patterns. And if you can use those correctly, then that's one more thing you are fluent in. So when you understand something, you feel confident that you'll use it correctly, that's when you're fluent in that particular thing. And then the product is, how can we do that faster and get more examples of things and learn like way more, so we can build our vocabulary, and it's quite easy to do that. That's actually what I talk about in my book, which you can click on the link in the description below this video to read. All right, but Code says, thank you, teacher. And Access, again, hi there. Can you give some examples of using the word otherwise? It could mean in other words, right? Well, okay, all right. So let me erase these examples over here. But hopefully this makes sense, where even if you don't live in an English-speaking country or you don't have people to practice with, if you can feel confident about specific words and phrases, you will prove to yourself, like we'll just show this in the video, that you can become confident even if you don't have someone to practice speaking with. All right, so you're not too old. It's not about knowing enough vocabulary. You just need to have confidence about specific words, and then you will naturally, as you learn them, feel more confident in those situations. But it's important to connect the vocabulary with situations, as I often talk about. All right, what was that example? Otherwise. Otherwise, I think that was correct. Let me see. Can you give some examples of using the word otherwise? It could mean in other words. No, in other words is not the same thing as otherwise. Otherwise is typically like let's say for the person who has the IELTS test tomorrow, like you should study hard, otherwise you will not do well on the test. So like when we're talking about like otherwise, it's like other things you could do. All right. So if, let's say you eat too much, let's see, ice. Trying to think of a simple example for this. If you eat too much ice cream, you could get sick. All right, so let's say this is a true statement here. If you eat too much ice cream, you could get sick. If you eat too much ice cream, you could get sick. So you should stop. So let's say I'm talking with someone who is, they keep eating ice cream all day for hours and hours. Like they're going to get sick. So I'm telling them, hey, like, so you should stop. Otherwise, so try to think about otherwise as like different. Tom's eating ice cream right now. Be careful, don't eat too much or you could get sick. A little bit is okay, but otherwise you could get sick. So think about this as like having another option here. So like another way to go, like a different way of doing something. So if we have a kind of problem like this or some situation, something is true, like you should stop doing it. Typically otherwise is used when we're trying to give some kind of advice like this. So you should stop eating ice cream if you're eating too much. You should stop. Otherwise, you could get sick. Otherwise, you could get sick. So it's like you could do this thing, you could stop, or you could do something other than that. You could continue eating the ice cream and you could get sick. So this is otherwise, all right? Otherwise. And so remember, when I talked before about understanding vocabulary in situations, this is what I mean. So this particular situation of trying to do too much, like I'm, I don't know, like in this case of learning about eating ice cream or whatever. So if I tell people like, you should stop watching this video and go practice for the IELTS, whatever you have to do for that, I don't know what exactly you need to do. But like in that case, you should stop watching this video. Otherwise, you might, make your chances worse at getting, like having the, what do you call it? Like, basically your chances of scoring well will be worse. So you might not do as well on the test, all right? So if I'm going out somewhere, like the rain, I see some clouds and my wife says, you should bring an umbrella. Otherwise, if there's rain, you get caught in the rain, okay? Or I get rained on. So otherwise is just here's an alternative, but it's typically used in this way. So we're not just trying to memorize the word otherwise or get a translation. We're not trying to just study it by itself. We want to look at it in situations like this because that's a pattern, like I talked about before. You want to get fluent in the pattern like that. So I like to not eat too much ice cream. Otherwise, I get sick. Okay. Otherwise. Let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, I will continue. All right. If you don't have any further questions about otherwise, I will continue talking about other things. All right. Vampy says, so I just have to use a situation explained in different ways. Do I have to memorize that vocabulary as well? How do I use it if I'm looking to improve my fluency and confidence? So yes, the core is if you feel certain about using something, then you will use it. So if you're unsure about using language, you will not use it. Okay? So you need to feel sure about what you want to say. Otherwise, you will not speak. Okay? So yes, the point is like we want to use like the language and we don't necessarily need to memorize it, but we will naturally remember it as we get more examples and feel confident about using it. But again, I think somebody else just put in another thing. Teamer says, can we use or instead of otherwise? Yes, like we could use or here as well. So you don't have to say otherwise, you could say or you'll get sick. And here you're doing a good job of understanding the vocabulary from the situation. So rather than just thinking about the word by itself, we're really thinking about in this situation, what could we say? We could say otherwise, we could say or even maybe some other things as well. So you should stop. If you don't, you'll get sick. We could say that as well. Otherwise, you'll get sick, or you'll get sick. That's another way you could say it as well. Okay? But again, the point is like if you hear a new word like this, like this way, like you could do it. And again, like it's just meaning like other, like this way or some other thing. Okay? So otherwise. But yes, this or it means the same kind of thing, like this thing or that one. Okay? And so the point is not even necessarily to remember and always use one thing in a conversation. Maybe you just say that one. But if you understand what this means, you will recognize it and be able to follow that in conversations. So you don't have to memorize it, but you will naturally come to understand it and you will remember it that way rather than like putting it on a flashcard and trying to repeat it again and again. So it's much better to get multiple examples of something to remember it naturally and then also learn alternatives. Because remember, what we're trying to do is understand in this situation, what might we say? So we could say otherwise, we could say or, we could say something different. Okay? So when you are in a conversation, you don't want to be thinking about words, you want to be thinking about situations and patterns and how you can express something. Something happens, how do I respond to that? Or someone says something to me, how do I respond to that person? And there are typically many ways people could respond to things. Let's see. And we got another one. Hello, teacher. I am your biggest fan, and I love watching your videos. Well, thank you very much. If you enjoy them, do click the like button and share them. Again, if the topic is unfamiliar, how do you make conversation any guide? Partly, this is like, depending on what the exact topic is, like if I'm trying to talk about, I don't know, some things in English and I just don't even know the vocabulary for that, like some difficult things in biology or fixing cars or something like that. I've given these examples before because I don't know every word in English, and there are lots of specific things that maybe I couldn't talk about. But if you're in a conversation where maybe you kind of know something about it, usually there are various ways that you can express something. I actually talk about this I talk about this in the book. So in The Strangest Fluency Secret, this is in Speak Like Me and Fluent for Life. But the point is more understanding a wide range of things and seeing how they could be used in a wide range of different topics. So if I'm talking about like the word otherwise, like now I could use that when I'm talking about basically anything. You should study, otherwise you're going to get a bad grade. You should exercise, otherwise you're not going to be healthy when you get older. You should do this, otherwise you should do this, otherwise. And so now I have a new pattern that I could use for a wide range of situations. So if you specifically don't know, like let's say, like when my wife was pregnant with our daughters, I have to go to the hospital here in Japan and talk with doctors and nurses about things. There were a lot of words I didn't know. But it's pretty easy for me to explain something and either learn that vocabulary or just get the vocabulary from examples. And so if I know, for example, I'm going to be talking with doctors about something like that, I can either get that information ahead of time. So before I go to the hospital, I can like watch some YouTube videos about people delivering babies or whatever and learn that specific vocabulary. Or when I get there, I can just ask questions and learn about the vocabulary from those people. But very rarely do I have a conversation with people. Like I was talking with a guy, I don't know, a week ago here in Japan about politics. And we were talking about some of the like kind of changing politics, and Japan has a new prime minister now, and we were talking about that. And there are actually a lot of political words I don't know, but I can learn a little bit more as I'm talking with people and still express myself using the vocabulary I do know because I'm fluent in that vocabulary. So the point is not to try to memorize all of these different expressions. It's knowing what you know well enough that I can talk and describe things in a wide variety of ways, and then still learn specific vocabulary from people. But I'm not shy about asking, like, what does this word mean? Like, what do we call that? So I could try to describe something. I've made some videos about this even on this channel, talking about things like let's say I don't know even a simple word for something. I'm thinking of a word right now and I'm trying to describe it, but I don't know the actual English word for it. But I'll try to describe it for you and you can tell me what word I'm thinking of. We'll play a little game right quick just to demonstrate this. So I'm thinking of something. I saw this yesterday. It's kind of a small animal. It was walking across the street. Last night I was out for a walk. I forget the name of it though. So it's a small animal. It's got 4 legs, a long tail. It's about this big. Like I could hold it in my hand. You know, some people keep them in their house. What's the name of that animal? Do you know what I'm talking about? So I can describe something like that, and I bet you can probably guess what I'm thinking. And then as soon as somebody says the word, then I think, okay, exactly. And so here it comes in. I'm in the conversation, and I'm still continuing to speak, but I didn't know the exact name of the thing. And then someone is like, oh, you're talking about a cat. And I say, yes, that's the word I'm thinking of. So it works the same way, whether I'm talking about some physical thing like that, or maybe I'm talking about some deeper idea or politics or something, but I'm usually able to describe things generally or just ask questions like, what does this thing mean? Or, what is the word for a particular thing? Because even native speakers will do that in a conversation. So maybe I'm talking about economics or politics or something, like I was asking my dad about something like, what does this thing mean? Because I didn't know. And I don't know every word. And so when you're in a conversation like that, the fluency really comes as my confidence. So I feel confident about using the words I know, and that allows me to keep the conversation flowing and still learn new vocabulary. Okay? So even if you don't know something, I can figure out a way to explain it and then usually work with the other person to get the examples I'm looking for or whatever to give me that specific vocabulary. So that's how you do that. But if you'd like to learn more about developing fluency quickly for those kinds of situations, that's what I talk about in the book. You can click on the link in the description below the video to get that. Is it make sense? Other plus whys. I don't know what you mean. You would say, does it make sense, though? Other plus wise. Well, otherwise is one word, otherwise. But other and wise by themselves are two different things. Tom says, I feel more comfortable and confident to learn English while watching this class. Glad to hear it. And enjoying ice cream at the same time. Yes, if you eat too much ice cream, you might get sick. Zach says, hello from Afghanistan. I've finished my English course. What's your advice for me now? What should I do so I don't forget my English since everyone here speaks Persian? Well, you don't need to talk with anyone to keep remembering your English. Just watch content like that's actual content for natives or whatever your level is. I don't know what course you're talking about, if this is just something you've done on your own. But just continue watching content. If you think about native speakers like myself, I'm not looking for English language learning content, but I get lots of new English by just watching stuff and watching other people talk about English. So I don't really even spend much of my day talking in any language, I guess. I mean, I'm usually working or reading or doing something like that, but I can learn new things all the time in Japanese or English just by getting examples of content. So right now it's very easy to get content about whatever you want anytime you want. So it's very easy. You just think about, instead of having to speak about stuff, you can just watch the content. The nice thing about language learning is that this is really a mental process. So it's not like I need to go out and play basketball to stay a good basketball player. I just need to keep getting examples of people speaking English to keep learning new English, because it's all a mental activity. If I already know how to speak and I'm just learning new things, then I can easily do all that mentally. Let's see, and Anna, if I'm reading that correctly, how can I improve listening? I talk about this in the book as well, but the basic idea is thinking, number one, about making sure you understand simple examples of things, and then getting a variety of different people saying that same thing. So for example, you might listen to an English teacher say a particular phrase or sentence or something, but then you hear other natives saying it as well. Because the point is not just to be good at listening to English teachers like myself here. I'm speaking slowly and clearly, and when people are in real conversations, natives are not going to speak like this. They're going to speak faster, probably use different vocabulary as well. So we really wanted to get exposure to a variety of different native speakers. So I talk about how to do this in the book as well. But it's really the same skill for improving all of your abilities like that. So when you're getting a range of examples, that's going to help you feel a lot more confident and fluent. All right, Timmer says, can we use, or yeah, okay, we did that one already. Bridget, nice to see you there. I've never tried ChatGPT to improve speaking. Is it worth, you would say, is it worth doing or is it worth it? If you're asking me, I don't really use ChatGPT for Japanese, just because it basically sounds like a foreigner speaking Japanese, and it puts English filler words like and in the in the examples. And I don't really know what Japanese people do actually. If there's I don't think there's a ChatGPT for Japan, although like the text part will certainly give you text in Japanese. It works in the same way, at least I think. But like for speaking practice, I think it would really depend on your ability to speak. But the problem with ChatGPT is that it still teaches people like a regular teacher instead of trying to help people understand the language like a native. So if I say, hey, what does this mean? It's usually just going to give me a translation of that or try to explain it like a definition, rather than giving me an aha moment or really helping me understand it in the language itself. But yeah, that's been my issue more with ChatGPT. But typically when people are thinking about learning or trying to improve their speaking, you don't actually have to speak in order to do that. I know that sounds weird, but this is, again, the backwards idea that I talk about in the book, The Strangest Fluency Secret. So people think that they need to speak in order to become a better speaker, the same way that they need to practice the piano to become better at playing the piano. But what actually needs to happen is that you just need to understand the language well first, and then you will speak it. So I don't need to spend my time speaking Japanese all day. I just need to get good examples that make me feel confident about using the language. And then when I do speak, I will use it. So if I'm in a conversation, like if I see somebody walking by down the street and I don't know how to say hello, then I'm not going to start a conversation with that person. But if I know how to say hey or hello or how's it going or something like that, that's how I feel confident, and that begins the conversation. But I don't need to spend time practicing that in the typical way that people think. So if you're right now, and put these up here, most of the people I help are in two, we can call these camps or groups. I'm actually curious, you can let me know which of these groups you are in, just for my own benefit so I understand who I'm speaking with right now. So the group one here is like you do. I need to stop this thing from squeaking over here. So the first group is people who do speak but don't feel fluent. So that's group one. Let me know if you are in group one or group two. And this is don't speak. Usually because you are shy or busy or you don't have anyone to talk with. We'll just say alone. Like you don't have a speaking partner or whatever. And even though there are services or people, you can usually find somebody, especially if you're willing to pay for a speaking partner. If you want to do that, it's pretty easy to find, tutoring services or whatever. But just put a 1 or a 2 up here. You don't need to even say a long thing. Just let me know which group you're in. So Tom says he is in 1. So you do speak, but you don't feel fluent. So other people, group one, that's interesting. Okay, group 2. So I think the people, it's more frustrating, obviously, for group 1 people. You do speak with people, but you still don't feel confident using your words. And then Obviously, for people who don't speak at all, they have a different kind of frustration where they would like to improve, but they feel like they don't have anyone to speak with, so they can't, like they're stuck. And so I've been in both of these groups actually, but even when I lived in Japan, so I still live in Japan now, but when I first came to Japan, I had lots of opportunities to speak, but I had no confidence, and I didn't feel sure about my words. That's why I didn't use them. So yeah, I suppose some people could be in both groups, maybe depending on where you live or different times, or if you have some opportunities some days, but maybe you don't have other or opportunities other days. But this is most of the people who watch my content. I mean, other than that, I don't know. Like otherwise, you would basically be a fluent speaker or just not watching my videos. So either you do speak and you don't feel fluent, or you still have trouble expressing yourself, or you're just not yet satisfied with how well you speak, or you don't speak because you feel shy or you're busy or whatever. Now, what I like to explain to people, and this is what I talk about in the book, is you don't need to speak to develop. Now, this is going to seem like a pretty shocking claim to some people, but it's true nonetheless. And as I prove in many of my videos, again, the purpose is really to feel confident about saying things, and you might not feel confident about the whole language, just like I don't know every English word, but you don't need to speak to develop fluency. You can actually develop fluency before you speak, and that way when you do have conversations, you can use things confidently. And I've done this many times, and this is even just in my own life, like learning a particular thing in one case and then using it later, not because I practiced it, but because I actually understood what somebody was saying. Like one of my earliest examples of this in Japanese is like ishokenmei, which is to try to like do your best at something. And I remember learning that in Japanese at some point. I think I learned it at school. So I used to teach at a couple of schools, actually, not far from where I am now. But I was a classroom teacher. I haven't taught in the classroom in a while, except for this, my virtual classroom, kind of. I still like teaching. That's why I do these videos. But I had learned that it was kind of a pattern, like we're talking about in this video, a pattern I had learned from students at my school about like doing their best. They were like ishokenmei ganbarimasu, like I'm gonna try to do something very well. But I did not go home and try to repeat the word and practice it and memorize it and put it on a flashcard and all that. I did not do that. I just heard a variety of examples of that from various kids, like ishokenmei suru, like whatever they're talking about it. But it's like I will try my best at something. And then later, when I was in a situation, I was actually doing some gardening, and I was kind of talking, and this is actually like the second year I was in Japan, after I understood how to learn this way. So for my first year in Japan, I was learning Japanese the traditional way, and I made basically no progress. And then about a year in, after I finally understood how I should be learning, like what I'm describing here, that's when everything changed, and I started finally making progress in my Japanese. And so I use that without thinking about it, like ishokenmei ganbarimasu, where I'm talking with the owner about like learning gardening or whatever. And my Japanese was not very good then either, but I had understood the pattern, and I had learned it naturally from a bunch of different examples, and then I naturally used it in another situation. So this is another example where you don't need to speak to develop fluency. So what's actually happening is like I'm developing fluency as I'm getting lots of good examples, so that when I do speak, I feel confident about using something. And so all of the videos that I make here or the examples that I give in these videos, what I'm trying to do is help you feel confident about using the language, even if you are not speaking with me. Now, you could talk if you want to. You can talk to your phone or your tablet or computer or whatever, but we're not actually having a conversation. Anyway, you can still improve your fluency even before you speak. Okay, so the point is not just to like learn something and then try to memorize it. It's like how quickly can you feel confident that if you said that you would say it correctly. So if you're in a conversation and I think, wait, I don't think I could say that correctly because I don't know the pronunciation or I don't know exactly about the grammar or whatever. Like I learned some new Japanese yesterday that I still don't understand because I didn't get a good example of it and I just heard it one time. So it was a video and it was a TV show last night about, it's called, what's the name of that show? It's like Birang no Ibung or something like that. It's like it's kind of almost like a kind of court case show, but it's just like talking about animals or different kind of things and like are they good or bad or whatever. It's like an interesting kind of show, but this one was talking about rabbits. I don't know if anyone in Japan also saw that show last night. But so in this example, I don't even really remember the word because I just heard it one time and I was kind of unclear about what it meant. And this often happens to people when they hear new language, but then they forget it because they just heard something one time and they don't quite get the context or how to use it. So of course I don't feel confident saying that vocabulary. But I don't need to repeat that or say it again and again to feel confident. What I need to do is actually feel confident, like get more examples, see how it works. And then if I feel confident, like I actually understand what this means now, then I will be able to say it. Like the example with otherwise that we gave earlier in this video. I think, so the Japanese word, it was like nureginu. And I was like, even trying to look up, it was like nureginu o kiseru, and I had not heard that before, and I was just like, oh, that's interesting. And another interesting thing about language is like I assumed I had not heard that before, but people are probably using it, and my brain just doesn't recognize that language. But now that I know about it, my brain will start recognizing it when I hear those examples. So again, like the fluency is developing even before I speak. Now, I could try to practice that thing and try to use it in more conversations, but that's kind of the brute force way of developing my fluency. And that's difficult to do if I don't have anyone to speak with. So the alternative is, instead of worrying about speaking, I just try to get lots of good examples that make me feel confident about using it. And if I know I will use it correctly, if I feel confident about that, then when I do speak, I will use it correctly. Okay, so you don't need to speak to develop fluency. If anyone has a disagreement or you think this is incorrect, let me know. Okay, but this is how you can develop fluency, especially if you do speak and you don't feel confident. So you want to get that extra practice where you're feeling more confident about things before you say them. Or, excuse me, especially if you don't speak at all. Because you don't need to wait for people. There's nothing stopping you from getting fluent right now because you don't need to speak to develop fluency. It's like in your native language, if you read a book and you learn some new term or whatever, and then you become able to use it, you just became fluent in that language. You became fluent in using that particular term. You added that to your active vocabulary. But you didn't practice saying it. You read something, you learned, oh, that's interesting. Here's a new thing, like the name of a new product or something you hear on the news or some information about a country or something like that. You don't need to speak to develop fluency. So I know this sounds odd, but it's basically what happens. So if you are in one of these two groups here, that's good news for you. You don't need to wait to do that. So that's what I talk about in my book. That's why I call it The Strangest Fluency Secret, because most people are stuck here because they think they have to speak to develop fluency, but they don't realize, or maybe they just don't remember, they're doing that all the time, both in English and their native language. Anytime you learn something new and think, I get it, I understand what that means now, and I could feel confident using it, then you're getting fluent. You're developing fluency even before you speak. All right? So it's a lot faster and easier, and you don't have to wait for a teacher to correct you or a practice partner or whatever if you get fluent first. Okay? Certainly you can continue to develop fluency as you speak, but you don't have to wait for those opportunities to develop that. All right, let me see if I missed some people over here. Good morning. We have 6 o'clock here in Turkmenistan. Nobody knows every word in their language. Yes, and so that's a good thing to keep in mind as you are learning, English or whatever. Like, wait a minute. The point is not to know the whole language. It's actually to be fluent in particular patterns of that language. And this is how children learn to speak. So obviously they build fluency over time in getting good examples of particular patterns, like the commonly used vocabulary or grammar or whatever. And then they know how to use that for a wide range of situations. And then as they get older, they start adding more things to that. So you can do that the same way. Access again. Today I interacted with teacher Drew in this live. Otherwise, I wouldn't get exactly what the word otherwise means. Yeah, there you go. So I'm glad I could help. Let's see. Because we don't speak, we don't read. This is why we can't speak fluently. We don't note vocabulary. Because I'm guessing because we don't speak, we don't read. Well, I don't know what that means, but again, you don't need to speak in order to develop fluency. Remember, fluency is it's a feeling you have that you will express yourself confidently if you speak. So if you say to someone, hey, are you fluent in a language? They would say, okay, yes, I am, or no, I'm not. And what they really mean is, if I had to speak, would I feel confident expressing myself? And that's basically it. So if you feel confident using the language, then you are fluent in that language, even if you don't know every word. Certs and Tex's question, is it hard for you also to listen to people talking using a radio, like when drivers use a radio comms, a walkie-talkies, like when a taxi driver talks to dispatch? It's so hard to understand. Yeah, for me, actually, my right ear, I've got a little bit of tinnitus, I think. That's I had some kind of sudden hearing loss a few years ago. And when I'm in a crowded room, even that can be a little bit tricky for sometimes. And this is, English or Japanese, it doesn't matter. So I hate kind of echoey rooms. If I'm in an elevator and my kids are yelling or something like that, it hurts my ears a little bit. But yes, it can be difficult to hear things, on a walkie-talkie, especially if it's not clear or the sound frequency isn't clear. Access again. I need also your help to emphasize the use of caught in the sentence, I caught my child cheating. Can you use naturally varied review for this? I caught my child cheating. So emphasize the use of caught. Well, what do you mean emphasize it? Like you would say, I caught my child cheating. Is that what you mean? Like emphasize it while you're speaking? Or you're just talking about trying to remember it? Remember, for naturally varied review, the purpose is trying to get examples that help us kind of focus on a particular word or phrase or something, and then we get a range of examples about it. So for that one, like that sentence is actually a little bit more challenging. Like I caught a bee. So typically when I'm just introducing something, if the word you're focusing on, just understanding what it means to do something, like I caught a bee. So let's say here is a little B, and that's me with my net, and I want to catch the bee. So let's say I got him. I caught a bee. I caught a bee. So if you're talking about just, if I understand your question, if you're asking about either that particular like word, or using it in a slightly more complex way, like I caught C-A-U-G-H-T, caught my child. So we build it up a little bit more difficult here. I caught my child, like instead of I caught a bee, I caught, let's say, here's my child. Let's say I caught them in a net. So you can say like, I caught my child doing something. So I caught my child doing something. I caught my child doing something, or I caught my child whatever. Let me know if you have a specific question about the meaning or using these things, but this is how you would get naturally varied review, like organizing sentences around particular things you have trouble with, whatever it is. You mentioned emphasizing the word caught, so just making sure I understand something like that. But like I caught my child, and if you're, let's say for this specific pattern, like I caught my child reading a book. Like they were reading a book and I noticed they were doing that thing. Or I caught my child stealing some cookies. Or I caught my child cheating. I caught my child sleeping in school or something like that. Or I caught, my wife cheating on me, like I came home and she was cheating on me. Oh no. So I caught, and this is how we build sentences, and we're looking for a variety of examples of things to really understand how the grammar or the vocabulary or even the pronunciation, how those things work. So let me know if you have a specific question about these things, but when you're asking about naturally varied review for really anything, this is how you would do it. So if, for example, like I caught something, you would get other examples of things you might catch, like a physical thing like this, or we could even catch something like I caught a cold. All right. So like a non-physical thing like that. Let's see. Where did I? Oh, okay, all right. So Tom says, I understand it. If I have money, I would buy your book. Well, hopefully when you do, you can get it. To improve your Japanese, you need to watch a lot of anime, and your Japanese will improve to the arigatou gozaimasu sensei level. Yeah, I actually don't watch much anime, but I just listen to regular people speaking, because that's the world I live in. So I don't really live in like anime world, and anime characters are actually speaking in a different way than regular people. But I mean, there's lots of useful vocabulary I can get, but it's a different kind of world than I just get from, like, I'll sit at like a coffee shop or whatever and pretend to read a book and just listen to other people's conversations. And I don't really care about the information. I'm just listening to how they speak to each other. Yeah, the board is kind of squeaking behind me. Let's see. Anki app is good. It's a good idea to learn and training. Yeah, I mean, I don't really recommend people use flashcard apps because it's isolating the vocabulary rather than really seeing it and creating a network in your mind of these various connections between words. So if you have this word and this word and this word and this word, and you're going through like that, it's much better to actually have this word. You have these different words that seem like they're disconnected, but you're trying to learn how they're connected to each other. And this is a much better way to remember the information. It's a lot more difficult to try to remember things like that and then use them automatically in conversations. Let's see. Movies are a way to expose oneself to English content, but I often wrestle with whether I should watch with or without subtitles. I can see disadvantages to both. What is your what do I recommendation I see in this regard? I don't have a problem with subtitles. I would just use the subtitles in English if you can. But the same thing I recommend for any content, whether it's books or movies or TV shows, you should understand at least 80 to 90% of it already, so that any new information is easier to understand. So if you're thinking about watching a movie and you don't understand anything people are saying and you have to have the translations in your native language, I would find a different movie if you're trying to improve your English. If you're just watching a movie and you don't care about that, then that's fine. But if you're actually trying to improve, you should get those aha moments, and these are moments where you discover language and understand what things mean even before someone tells you. So you feel more confident about using things like, oh, I was watching a movie and I understood this phrase from that. And that's possible when you already know a lot of the language. So subtitles themselves aren't necessarily good or bad, but it's much better to have the English subtitles rather than using them through your native language. Let's see if that's Natalie, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Can you explain how to use correct vocabulary in the content? Sometimes I'm getting confused with words like instead or rather than. Well, in those cases, you need to just get some examples until you feel confident for a particular situation. So again, you can try to think about vocabulary by itself, and usually learners are doing that because they start with a word in their native language and then translate it into English, and then they have a particular word like that where you're thinking, I don't know what that means, and it's just more difficult for your brain to understand things if it's just the isolated vocabulary. But again, if you're making connections with other things, if you get different examples of how vocabulary works for a particular pattern or situation, then it's a lot easier to understand. So instead of, again, I'm trying to think of a simple way to explain this, but instead of whatever word, like instead or otherwise or whatever the word is that you're unsure about, you want to make sure it's like instead with some situation. That's what's going to help you understand the word, because the word doesn't mean anything by itself. It only means something in a situation. All right, so like your brain won't really remember it as like a word by itself. It's something connected to a situation, because typically you are getting, if you're learning your native language, you will be getting new language within a particular situation. It's pretty rare for you just to unless someone just says a word and you don't know what it means, usually you're learning new things within some kind of context. So you just need to give yourself more examples of these things when they'll be, when you're using them, you just need more, again, that naturally varied review, more examples of these. Let's see. Are different improved fluency and improved speaking skills because I write more fluent, you would say fluently, than speaking? Yeah, so obviously it's a different skill when you're writing or even listening, because when you're writing something, you have time to think, or maybe if you're typing, you think, okay, I don't want that word, I want to do something else or whatever. But when you're speaking, you have to be able to continue to keep things flowing. So it's a different skill. They're related, but yes, most of the people who are learning with me, they are having usually some like a better ability for writing and reading than being able to speak. Any updates about Chapter 7? Yes. So I know Chapter 7 is taking a while. It's actually, I'm trying to think if I can give some good information about it. Like part of that is what I'm talking about here about practicing. It's taken me a while because I'm not quite happy with how the revisions of it are going, and I don't know why it's taking me a while to I want to make sure I express it well, because chapter 7 is really where we come back and explain why all this works. So he's talking about, I'm guessing as he, but you're talking about the Strangest Fluency Secret. So this is the book that I'm writing and releasing chapter by chapter. So there are 2 chapters left. And chapter 7 will be done. I don't even know when it will be done, but I just don't have a specific date. But it's going back and explaining now that we know how to get fluent and how this process works, which is all up through chapter 6. Now we're going back and explaining why these things work. And so a lot of the things that I talk about in the video will be things you recognize already when you read them in chapter 7. But yeah, I wanted to hustle to get the first chapters out as quickly as possible, because those have the actual method in them. Chapter 7 is, it's nice to have, but less important for that reason. But I just want to make sure I do it well. That's why I'm taking my time with it. But I apologize. I want to get it out as quickly as I can. Hi, teacher. I'm Teresa from Dallas, Texas. Timber says, can you explain the difference between such as and like, when I should use like instead of such as? For those, this is a kind of question for ChatGPT, where you really just need a bunch of examples to look for patterns in those things. So see if you can do that first, and it'll be a lot easier for you to look at those things, and you will see often what you discover in languages. Like, there's some times where you can use like, sometimes where you can use such as, and other times where they overlap. Actually, let me draw the diagram like that. So there will be some times when you can use both. Like, people will ask me, should I use this word or that word? And again, they're kind of thinking about words in isolation, like, should I use this one or that one? I say, well, it depends. Sometimes yes, sometimes no, sometimes yes and no. But it's a lot easier, rather than me going through and explaining a bunch of examples right now. Give that a try. ChatGPT is actually quite useful for that kind of word training. Bianca says, hi, teacher. Nice to see you. I love your content. Thanks for teaching us. It's my pleasure. I noticed my child cheating. Yes, like if they're cheating on a test or something. I caught him red-handed. What do you think about repeat and repetition? Repetition, and this is another thing actually I will talk about in chapter 7 of the book, is that it's less useful until you understand something. So if I don't understand what a word means, whatever the word is, repeating the word doesn't give me any new information about it, like any of the words we've talked about today, like caught or otherwise, or I don't know, anything else. And it's kind of like, I actually described this in the book in, chapter 5, I think. So if you close one of your eyes and look at something, like try to find something in your room right now, wherever you are. If you're outside, find something outside. But if you try to look at something, like a tree if you're outside, or some physical thing in your room, and you don't have to actually put your hand over your eye, but you're just covering one of your eyes. So you're looking at something and you can't see it quite clearly. You can't see exactly how far away it is. And I could blink 100 times. I'm basically repeating that same vision to myself, like I'm blinking like this, but I'm not seeing the thing better. So the repetition isn't really adding any new information. It's just giving me the same information again and again. But when I open my other eye, now I have both eyes, and that new angle is what allows me to see that thing. So the repetition of doing something is more for refinement, or you're trying to practice using something like, and this is a thing I talk about in chapter 7 also, like if I'm reviewing the days of the week in Japanese, just to get fast at saying them. So I remember actually doing this one day. So after I learned the days of the week in Japanese, it was like Getsuyobi, Kayobi, Suyobi, and I was just going through just saying like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, like that. But I wanted to say them quickly. So first I was understanding what they are, and then I wanted to get faster at being able to say them. So now it's like Getsukatsui mo Kindonichi. Like I can go through them very quickly because I practiced doing that. But understanding was the key first. So we don't want to just memorize stuff or try to repeat things until we understand them. The purpose is to make sure you understand them well first. Let's see. This is exactly what I meant. Physical and non-physical uses of caught. Yes. So again, this is the idea is like not to just learn the word by itself, but to see how it works. How something works is the situation it lives in, you know. So the other words around a particular word, that's how you learn what they mean. All right, every day I write my or maybe you mean own sentences and practice with them. Subtitles in English are helpful in the beginning when you are learning, and at some point you don't read them anymore. Yeah, and that's even like a way to think about it for watching movies. If you just don't notice or you don't care anymore, then you don't need them. So if you're not, it's kind of like having a safety net there. But if you don't need it anymore, then you don't need it. Ho from Egypt. My issue is listening. Well, I can say understand 60 to 70%, but when I start to speak, my tongue freezes. What should I do to fix that? Get my book. Actually, what we're talking about in this video today, as usual, we're talking about these same kinds of issues. And so anybody who's been watching my channel for a while, oh no, it started raining. Oh no, I'm going to leave soon too, and now we got some rain. Oh no. But yes, this is the general idea is that most people, they learn something but don't really feel confident about using it, and then they don't get that confidence, and then they move to something else and learn that and don't feel confident about using that, and then move to something else. And so they build a passive vocabulary but not an active one, and that's why a lot of people struggle to speak. Hello, Drew. It is a pleasure to participate in your class. I like your ideas, but I have some doubts. Awesome. I like to hear when people have doubts. I am from the first group, by the way. Recently, I have got some sort of insight about what you just said. Let me know what your doubts are. Do you mean doubts like doubts about what I recommend people do, or doubts when you speak? Let me know. Let me see here. I'm going to watch the same movie for a third time. I think it will help me. Yes, like it's useful to get that kind of repetition because your brain will discover new things each time. But movies are a little bit longer, and it's a lot of content coming that's more difficult, and you're probably less likely to read it. Or I guess in the case of a movie, like watch the same movie and not feel bored, especially if you watch them immediately, like you watch the movie and then watch it again. Children are able to do this really well, but adults are less able to do it. But yes, if it's if you enjoy doing that, you can do that. But naturally varied review is much better than repetition. And what that will do is, number one, it's giving you something smaller to focus on, like a particular word or phrase, and then you're getting a variety of examples, and that's what keeps your brain excited and interested, and lets you learn a lot more, because you're not just hearing one person say something, you're hearing a variety of people. So I talk a lot more about that in the book, but if you're enjoying watching movies again and again, then continue doing that. Like Father, like Son, or Today Was Such a Beautiful Day. Police set up a trap for thieves and caught them red-handed. Yeah. In this case, you can just say police set a trap, to set a trap. Is it hard for native English speakers to understand pop song or rap songs by singers like Travis Scott? I don't know who that is, but sure. Lots of even Americans, for example, they don't know all the lyrics to various songs, or they hear them incorrectly, or they think it's one thing, but it's actually something else. There are a lot of common examples of that. Let's see. Adur Kali says, Oh, of course, I mean subtitles in English. I understood 98% in terms of content, but sometimes I'm curious about certain phrases. Sitcoms stand out. Yeah, in terms of speed or puns or idioms. Yeah. And so that like content for natives is going to have all sorts of things like that, where you have things that are understandable, but then maybe you have certain words or whatever. But yeah, if it's useful to have the subtitles there so you can note that, maybe you get an example of it later, that's certainly fine to do. I see you from Delaware. The time is 10 in the evening over there. Let's see, Sergey says lack of practice, regular practice is necessary to develop speaking skills, not just learning grammar and vocabulary rules. Yeah, and so this is actually a good point. We'll probably close this out. We've gone for 84 minutes. I never think I'm going to go this long, and then I do. So people, let me see, let me get that comment again. Lack of practice. So we got practice. I'm guessing you mean like speaking practice. Speaking practice. And then what was the other part of that? So regular practice is necessary to develop speaking practice, not just learning grammar and vocabulary. Learn grammar. All right, so this is like a very fundamental, very basic thing that I help people with on the channel. But the reason I asked people earlier about like what group they're in. So let's assume that you need speaking practice in order to improve. But let's say you're in group 1 where you do speak, but you don't feel confident when you do, and you don't feel like you're improving as a result of speaking. Or number 2, you don't speak at all, or you don't speak very much, so don't speak. So if you assume you need to have speaking practice, and then you don't speak, or you do speak, but you don't really feel very confident, what can you do? You don't really have any other options. So a lot of people will just say, well, of course you need to practice your speaking, right? If you want to become a fluent speaker, you need to speak. You actually need to do the speaking part. But most people, again, are in this, like watching this content, are in one of these two groups. So how do you deal with that? If you need to practice speaking, but when you speak you don't feel confident, or you don't speak because you don't feel confident, or you're busy, or you just don't have time to do it, what can you do? What is the solution to that? I'll give people a moment to think about that. So what you're saying is like you have to practice speaking. It's not just about learning grammar and vocabulary or whatever. It doesn't matter how I feel, I speak for communicate. You speak to communicate, or you can say I speak for communication. Let's see. So lack of practice, again, regular practice is necessary to develop speaking skills, not just learning grammar or vocabulary rules. Okay, so again, we've got these two things over here. Most people watching this video, or who are just trying to learn in general, are in one of these two groups. Because I mean, like the third group would really be like you're already fluent. So you are speaking and you do feel confident about what you want to say. So you're probably not watching this content. So if you're watching this, you got speaking practice and you think you need this, but if you do speak and you don't feel confident, or you don't speak and that's for whatever reason, what is the solution to that? What can people do? It's easy to say, well, you just need speaking practice. Just get out and speak. You know how that works. Get out and speak. Everybody needs to get out and speak, right? Practice makes perfect. Practice makes perfect. Practice. So, or we don't, what is all about in speaking practice. Again, the reason I'm putting this here is because there actually is an alternative. So most people think that you need to practice speaking in order to get fluent. And that's correct. Like, you can speak, you can become a fluent speaker by practicing speaking. You certainly can. But again, if you do speak, but you don't feel confident and you don't feel like you're becoming a better speaker, or you don't speak, what is your option? What else can you do? Most people are just stuck here for years because they don't have any way to, what else are you going to do? It's like, yeah, you could keep learning more grammar and vocabulary, but that's because they don't realize there is this alternative over here. And this is the strangest fluency secret. I've written that badly because I'm trying to write it quickly, but this says the strangest fluency secret. And that is that you can actually become a more confident speaker before you speak. You can develop fluency before you speak. I'm not talking about just sitting and learning grammar and memorizing that. It's actually learning the language in a way that makes you feel confident before you speak. Okay? So that's what I talk about, or what I've been talking about in this video, or really all of my videos, but especially in my book. That's where I explain this idea. So especially if you are in one of these two groups and you don't have a way to practice, or you do have a way to practice, but you're just not feeling more confident, that's what you should actually do. So you can improve before you speak. It's nice if you can speak, but lots of people cannot, again, for these two reasons here. But you don't need to. You don't. Lots of improvement can happen even before you say a word, and that's what I explain how to do in The Strangest Fluency Secret. That's why I'm giving examples over and over and over again just to prove this point, because most people don't know this is possible. That's why I call it a secret. It's the way everybody really should be learning their language. Basically, it's a combination of learning real content, but in a systematic way. So it's kind of like how natives would learn the language, but a much more systematic way of doing that. So it's not like you have to do this thing or that thing or whatever. There's something else you can do, which actually makes sense. All right, let me get through these last couple of comments here and see if anybody has any questions. What did I miss? Let's see. Okay, GPT says you should use such as when it can usually be replaced with, for example. That's correct. Now, again, like if you're asking ChatGPT for a rule, don't ask ChatGPT for a rule, because then it's not going to help you understand the difference. If you're going to ask ChatGPT, have it give you a lot of examples. And what you're also looking for is like exceptions to the rules. If you're looking for some kind of rule, where you're like, okay, assuming these things are the same, when are they not the same? So ask those kinds of questions to ChatGPT. Hans says, does ChatGPT use grammar correctly? Yeah, I think it does. I haven't really found any errors recently, but again, there's a difference between just being correct, but actually being able to teach you a language. So yeah, you can certainly get correct examples from it, but the same way I talk about naturally varied review, ChatGPT is one source of information about something, but you should also get examples from people actually speaking. Like if I say to ChatGPT, let me write this clearly because I want people to see it. There's 2 cups on the table. There's 2 cups on the table. If you put that sentence in ChatGPT and ask it if it's correct, see what it said. There's 2 cups on the table. Anybody can check that right now. Just put that in ChatGPT to say, is this English correct? There's 2 cups on the table. Let's see. Timbers is wrong example. He is good at sports, for example, football and tennis, so we can't use, for example, for that phrase. So we should use like in this case. All right. Like another thing I'll mention about this is another reason to get good naturally varied review is because often, and you'll see this example if you put this in ChatGPT as well, the purpose is not necessarily to know what's correct. It's what did natives use in a particular situation. That's what you're looking for. And sometimes native speakers will still break a rule like that, and they won't like even think about it if it's the correct rule or not. It's just a lot of people can commonly, like, they will make something. Again, the same thing here with ChatGPT. Let me know if anybody does this example. There's 2 cups on the table. Because native speakers use this all the time, this kind of grammar, even though it's incorrect. So 2 cups is plural, so you need are instead of or, which means, so there is, and that's only correct for singular nouns. There's a cup on the table. That's wrong, teacher. We can't use is for they. Yeah. Now, ChatGPT will tell you what's correct or incorrect, and it's good about doing that. But what it doesn't do is just recognize that natives often use the language this way because it's faster. Now, I wouldn't write this, but in speaking, we use this all the time. So I'd say, oh, like there's 2 people over there. There's like 3, or there's 8 spaces available in the parking lot. Because it's faster to say theirs than there are. There are 5 parking spaces over there. Oh, I'd say, oh, there's 2 parking spaces over there. A lot of native speakers, like many of them, would use this incorrect grammar, and that's why it's important to remember we want to know what do people say in a particular situation. It's not just about learning the grammar or vocabulary or even trying to practice speaking. We want to know in a particular situation, what do people say? That's how we know if, that's how we actually feel confident using vocabulary. So if you begin just by like learning a bunch of grammar or vocabulary, you might remember that, but you still might not feel confident using it because you don't know, okay, in this situation, did natives actually use that? And so we have to get good examples. This is what I talk about in the book, The Strangest Fluency Secret. I'll write this more clearly up here. So the name of the book, The Strangest Fluency Secret. It is not in Amazon or available on Amazon yet because the physical copy is not finished. I'm not done with it yet, but if you want to read the book starting now, just click on the link in the description below this video. But again, the purpose is for people who are, the purpose of the book is for people who are trying to speak but don't feel confident, or they don't have anyone to speak with. This actually shows you how to develop fluency before you speak, so that when you do have conversations, you feel confident. All right? So yes, people will use that exception for grammar all the time. It's very common. Let's see. All right, we've got, C is there. I'm late. Do you cut your hair? Now remember, your grammar here, do you cut your hair, is asking, like, in general, do I cut my hair? Yes, I do. But if you're talking about specifically, yes, like, did you cut your hair? Yes, I got a haircut. Hans says, do real Americans use characters' lines from sitcoms in TV shows in real life? Yeah, sure. I mean, especially like people, it's more kind of like taking a line from a TV show, and the purpose more is sometimes you're learning the language, but oftentimes it's just using a cultural, like a kind of like a phrase or something like that that comes from a TV show, and then it's more of a community building thing. Like your friend watches a TV show and you watch that same TV show and you both know kind of like an inside joke. So it's something that you understand from that. But a lot of the language is just things that natives would use already. So it's more like like the TV show characters are getting things from real life. Obviously, they change some things depending on the kind of show, just like anime shows in Japanese are using real Japanese, but they're, especially if it's like an old samurai movie or something like that, they're going to say it differently. Is it a heavy rain or is it raining cats and dogs? It's actually not raining right now. It's kind of raining on and off, or off and on. So a little bit kind of weird weather today, but it doesn't matter. Oh, it's okay, I got that one example. Or we don't, what is all about? No, I think I answered that one. Practice makes might. What is the difference between imitate and shadow? I think they're basically the same thing. You can probably find someone who would tell you some nuance about it, but I don't think there's anything really more important than that. Fabio Nicia there says, hello, friend. How can I get your book? Again, it's called The Strangest Fluency Secret. You can click on the link in the description below this video. But it's basically, again, we've got people who want to practice speaking, but they can't. And again, you can become fluent by practicing speaking. It just is a long and difficult process. It's much faster and easier to do it this way, where you feel confident first and then speak. Let's see. All right, I'm not getting through these comments fast enough. Let's see. And see, it says, how can I riz girls fluently or simply being confident when rizzing girls? I like that new term, riz. It makes me feel old, like this is new. It's basically like, how do you talk to women or whatever? Well, just talk with them normally. I typically, like, I don't know, if I'm trying to talk to women, back when I was trying to talk with women like that, like getting to know women, I would just say hello, like, I think the women are kind of, I don't know, and the women in this chat, maybe they can correct me if I'm wrong. But if you feel nervous walking up to women, they can tell that you feel nervous. And so if you're more like, oh, hey, how's it going? Nice to meet you or whatever. Or like, I notice, some interesting thing that, maybe they don't, like, a lot of people wouldn't recognize or whatever, just for getting the party started, getting the conversation going. But I don't have any specific advice other than that for, like, talking to anybody, really. Like, we can say, I don't know, say hello. Ask the women in the chat here. Let's see. I have both kinds of doubts. I think that it is uncertain when this main aha moment will come. It couldn't come even, but my insight is that I could feel confidence before I got fluency. Yes. All right. So at least you got the first part. Do you have the book? Let me know if you have the book. I remember another educator was telling me, he said, Drew, you're an amazing teacher, but you talk about aha moments and, like, you can't just make those happen whenever you want. And I actually figured out a way to do that. And that's exactly what I teach in the book. And so, yes, like, if you're a good teacher knows how to create aha moments for learners. And that's my job as a teacher. So you're not coming for me to just tell you grammar rules. You're coming for me to actually make the language understandable so you feel confident about using it. That's the idea. So if you, again, don't have anyone to practice speaking with, you can feel confident about the language before you speak. So you don't, like, because if you think about it, what would actually be happening in a real conversation? You would try to use something if you don't feel confident about it, and maybe you try, but then maybe you get corrected or something, and at some point you have to actually feel confident about it so that the next time you use it, you speak. And that seems like a really difficult process, especially if you don't have anyone like a teacher or a person to correct you or whatever. Like, you can try to do this with ChatGPT, but the point is not just to get a correction, it's to actually understand and feel confident using what you want to say. And so the idea about giving yourself aha moments, you just do it with naturally varied review. That's the simplest easiest way to do it for yourself if you're trying to teach yourself. Now, obviously, like if I'm teaching you or you have a teacher, someone to help you, a good teacher will give you those aha moments so you feel more confident about it. But the purpose, yes, is not to try to speak to develop fluency. It's to feel confident first. So that way when you do speak, you feel confident about what you're saying. So like, you don't have to feel uncertain about aha moments. Let me know if you don't have the book, but in the book I explain how to get these. So ChatGPT, okay. If you don't feel confident speaking in English, you need to practice at home or find a friend who only speaks English, and don't be shy or afraid. Just try speaking. That's a way to begin communicating. Yeah, and so again, like this is typical advice that people would give, like just practice, just get out and speak, all right? And so like a similar example, if I can, let's see. If I'm teaching swimming at a pool, so here's my my pool over here, and we got the shallow end over here and the deep end down here, and I tell my students, okay, look, I want you to just jump in the pool. So we're going to jump. I've got some little kids over here. They don't really know how to swim. And I say, look, just jump into the pool. You know, you're going to move around, like you're going to make mistakes. It's okay. Just jump into the pool and teach yourself how to swim. It's okay. Now, if I'm a teacher and I'm giving that advice to people, just jump into the pool. Is that me doing a good job of actually helping people? No, of course not. Because like if I just tell them that, like I have to remember the psychology of the people, or in this case, little kids thinking about jumping in the pool. That could actually be dangerous for them. And psychologically, it's just as frightening for many people trying to speak when they don't feel confident about their words. So you can do this. It is a way to get fluent. Lots of people try, but also lots of people fail when they do this as well, because it can be hard to do. It's frustrating. You're just trying things, hoping you get corrected, but you don't actually feel confident. So instead of doing that, this is a much faster and easier way to do it, where you feel confident about what you want to say first. If you feel sure about what you want to say, speaking is a lot easier, I promise you. And so instead of telling students to jump in the pool and just feel confident, like just get in there, just start speaking, it's easier said than done. That's a nice phrase for people. Easier said than done. So it's easy for a teacher to just tell people, yeah, just get out and speak. Go ahead, it's okay. Maybe some people have that confidence, but a lot of people do not. And I'm not really being a good teacher if I just tell people, well, get out and speak. Because I'm basically saying, I didn't help you understand the language well. Now it's your job to go out and speak, and hopefully you figure out what the language means so you become confident. It really is like a backwards way of learning a language. But you don't have to do that. It's much easier to actually follow this approach where you feel confident first and then you speak. So you can do this if you want, but if you're looking for a faster and easier way, especially if you don't have people around you to practice speaking with, that's how you do it. All right, I think we're almost done. All right, let's see. So wow, now I understand why native speakers make these mistakes. It's a voila moment for me. There you go. Aha. Yeah, so again, if you focus on what people actually say in a situation rather than what the grammar textbook tells you, then you're going to learn the language a lot faster, because you're actually feeling, oh, like I get it, I understand. In this situation, people can say the incorrect grammar, because they do. I wouldn't write that, like the example about there's 2 cups on the table. I would not write that, but for people just talking, sure, lots of people use that. Did your children study phrasal verbs to speak English fluently? Yeah, sure. My kids know phrasal verbs. They don't know what a phrasal verb is. They don't know that term, but certainly they know lots of phrasal verbs, yeah. I teach them actually like the same way I teach in my actually you can look on my my YouTube channel. There's actually a video of me teaching my older daughter, Aria. I think we're covering some phrasal verbs in that example. But yeah, she learned how to speak that same way, just like I teach in that program. So unfortunately, I don't have your book. If someone from Kazakhstan will pay for me, I will get the book. Yeah, so if you like, other people can buy the book for you, and you can change the email address or whatever, but it's all digital, so you can get access to it immediately. And yeah, anybody can join any of our programs, and sometimes we get people buy them as gifts or whatever for other people. If you tell a kid to jump into the pool to learn how to swim, you will end up with a kid peeing in the pool, like Drew's drawing. Actually, yeah, kind of, I guess, yeah. A gerund, let's see, do your kids live in Japan? How can they use American idioms and slang to speak English in real daily conversation? Again, they get lots of examples from me, but I don't spend a lot of time speaking with them. Most of their day is in Japanese. The other thing is input from TV shows and movies and things like that. So again, they don't live in the United States. They live in Japan with me, and most of their day is in Japanese. But because I'm very efficient with how I teach them, I don't need a lot of time to help them understand the language. They don't need to spend all day in English to become good at speaking English. Hans says, how do I get better at using American idioms and slang fluently? You just need to see examples of Americans using those things. That's it. So whatever your target vocabulary is, it doesn't matter if it's slang or idioms or grammar or whatever. If you see examples of people using that, then you will get good at using that. That's how it works. But again, you want to see examples of real people using these things rather than like just getting it in a textbook or from a phrase book or something like that. Let's see. All right, looks like people are just asking me random questions about random vocabulary. What's the meaning of fish in a barrel? Well, all right, I'll just very quickly. So this is a barrel, this kind of wooden round box thing. So usually you put wine or other things like that. So imagine having a bunch of fish inside here swimming around. So the full expression is like something is very easy, like shooting fish in a barrel. So if I'm trying to catch fish in a large lake or something, it's much more difficult. But if I have a bunch of fish in a small area like this and I take a gun and try to shoot them, it's very easy to do that. So that's what that means when we're talking about something is like shooting fish in a barrel. It's just another way of saying it's really easy to do, because if I have a gun and I have to kill one of these fish with a gun, it's pretty easy. If there are many fish in a barrel, it's like I can't miss, really. It's so easy. So that's what that means. But we don't typically just talk about like a barrel of fish by themselves. It's usually that expression. So once in a blue moon, again, that just means something that doesn't happen very often. So Love says, I think grammar preposition part is a bit confusing. I speak well, but sometimes I get confused about prepositions, how to learn them. Again, the same idea. You want to get naturally varied review. You want to focus on specific things like that and actually see how they're used. That's how it works. So if we're confused about a word like in, we don't just study the word in and try to memorize it. We want to see how it's used in different situations. In different situations. So that's one example. All right. But again, anything like this, like any question you have about I struggle with this or that or whatever, it's all answered in the book, or The Strangest Fluency Secret. If you have not gotten the book and you don't have an issue like money or whatever, like you do have money and you could buy the book and you have not purchased or not bought the book yet, I'd love to know why. What is stopping you from getting it? I'd love to know what that is. Or maybe you think if you already know all of this information, I could see that, but let me know. How can I use phrasal verbs fluently? Same thing. So we actually show you how to do this in Fluent for Life and also the visual guide to phrasal verbs. You can search my channel for that to see more about how that works. But again, the idea is like we're not just going to learn random phrasal verbs. We actually want to see how they're used to understand them. When you understand something well, then you can use it. That's the idea. So whether you're doing this by yourself, and the book will show you how to do that, or you want to get in like a program like we have for Fluent for Life, you can learn more about both of those things by clicking on the links in the description below this video. But again, the point is not to just learn random vocabulary. You want to see how things work, actually the way natives use them, and that will make you feel confident about using them. Did I have breakfast? Yes, I did. Han says, should we learn how native speakers use linking and reduction to sound more natural so we can imitate them? Yes. Like, again, if I'm watching two people speaking, I'm going to learn vocabulary, pronunciation, incorrect grammar, linking, reductions, like all of that stuff. All of that stuff. All right. All right, let's see. Do you teach grammar? Yes. I mean, you've been even getting grammar in this video. Grammar is not like something separate that you learn. It's connected with the language. You learn grammar and pronunciation and vocabulary, all of that at the same time when you learn the real way. Okay. So if you have, if you want to practice speaking, but you don't because you can't, or you don't feel confident or whatever, you don't have to wait to practice speaking to become a more confident speaker. I know it sounds odd, but that's why I call it the strangest fluency secret. So it just means you can actually improve your confidence and fluency even before you say a word. And that way, when you're getting lots of good examples of the real language, you will understand exactly how it works. And then you will be able to use it fluently. All right, what is the meaning of by all accounts? You can check ChatGPT for that. If again, like, try not to think about, like, here's some random vocabulary and now tell me what it means. Like, go see what it means. Look it up in different places and see what you get. If I just tell you the meaning, you're not going to remember it anyway. But if you get that naturally varied review and you see how the language is actually used, you will understand it and you will feel confident using it, even if you didn't get a definition of it. All right. So if you have specific questions about what a specific word means, you can use ChatGPT for that. But remember to get lots of good examples. Don't just get the meaning of it. Get like 10 good sentences that show you how something works. I give a prompt in the book as well, and I talk about how to use ChatGPT or AI in order to learn more effectively as well. I talk about that in the book. All right, well, that'll be it for today. Before I lose my voice, look at that, 116 minutes. Oh my goodness. Timur says, thank you very much. Have a good day. What is a gerund? Google that. Why are you asking me what a gerund is? Again, like if you ask a native speaker, what is a gerund? They're going to say, I don't know what that is. And that should tell you something about how you need to learn. The point is not to learn like a specific name of a grammar point. It's like, how do I use something fluently? So try looking it up. Try actually going into ChatGPT and you can get examples of anything like that you would like to learn. But remember, if you don't understand it and feel confident about using it, it's not going to help you very much. What do you think about imitating TV shows, news programs, and TV sitcoms? Yeah, like this is perfectly fine to do. But again, like, if your goal is to speak fluently, get lots of simple examples of people using the language normally. You don't need to just copy movies or TV shows or whatever. You can find information about whatever it is you're interested in. Think about what you like. Like, if you like fishing, then watch English content about fishing here on YouTube from native speakers. And you can do it at different levels, like content for kids or content for adults or content about, specific kinds of fishing or whatever you're interested in. But again, I talk about that more in the book, where you're actually not trying to think about, like learning English with friends or whatever is the only way you can learn English. There are lots of ways you can learn. And if it's more something that you're interested in, you will learn even better. All right, well, have a fantastic day. Thank you all for joining me. Again, if you would like help actually speaking fluently before you get there, The Strangest Fluency Secret can help you do that. Oh no, look at that, more questions. To improve the speaking, does it help to practicing with vocabulary I already have? It's not necessarily I have a lot of vocabulary. Yes, you can become a more confident speaker with the vocabulary you already know, and that's actually one of the things that I recommend people do. Instead of going out and trying to just learn new words, you can actually get more examples and deeper understanding of the vocabulary you already have. So I do recommend doing that.
I lost Frederica's. I lost my phone. I tried to download it again with the same email, but it seems I have to pay. Is there any way to get it freely? Unless you have the same account, I don't know if it would let you do that or not. So I don't know if it's the same email or if it's the like the Google or Apple account, but I wouldn't be able to do that. So I don't know how that works. It's like dealt directly with them. Also, if people are interested in Frederick, that's another program I didn't mention about here, but that's also available at the link or with the link in the description below this video. I'm from China, I'm guessing. First time to watch your live. Well, welcome to the program. You can go back and watch the video, but if you have enjoyed it, do click the like button. Americans linking and reduce very much when they speak. Yes, and a lot of people do this, like even when I'm listening to people speaking Japanese, a lot of people are not speaking very clearly. You know, it happens. But again, people are just trying to speak faster, and that's why those reductions and things happen. So instead of trying to study it like a scientist, like a language student, just get lots of simple examples of people speaking. If you do that, you will actually understand how to speak, and you will feel confident even before you say anything, so that when you do speak, you will speak confidently. All right? So if you'd like to speak, but you don't, or you don't have any opportunities to do so, get the book. It'll show you exactly how to do that, and you can do so by clicking on the link in the description below this video. Have a fantastic day, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.